So this past Saturday, 3 days ago, I tuned in to the newest episode of Dragon Ball Super, and the context is that I never watch it with subtitles, just because I usually can't find or have trouble even getting to it, to be frank with you. And for that reason, I just sort of, you know, watch moving pictures. Um, and when I watched it that first time, I really didn't have a problem with it because I couldn't tell what anybody was saying or what anything was really just being done, as well as me having other things going on at that point. So I was just kind of entirely not preoccupied, but my mind wasn't fully invested in what was on the screen. It's the best way to put it. Um, and I'm a regular viewer of Hail Zeon, who I disagree with him on a few things, but, or, relating to Dragon Ball in general. But I always give him credit for being the complete opposite of Geekdom 101, who, I mean, if you go and watch this guy's videos, it's like every single thing about this series is just wonderful. Yeah, he'll say something about animation or, you know, what he thought didn't make sense here and there, but it's as if the whole thing is just great. Besides the technical and script worthy, you know, critiques that he'll make. And that no one's saying you can't have an opinion where you like something. But I mean, if I like something and I really think it's good, I wouldn't make a video that's longer than 10 minutes on it. That's all I'm getting at. So, that's what I'm saying is with Elzion, um, he's very good at being able to have his opinion on something and just with no care in the world about the repercussions of having subscribers leave him or drop him or anything. And it's just you watch his stuff and you really can get a feel for what the problem was with a given episode of the series. And he's not just some random hater, because he'll go and say, "Oh, I like this. I thought this was good." So you get a really balanced person in him, and I definitely think people should check out his channel. He really, in my opinion, should be the person to go to for legitimate, genuine Dragon Ball critique, because unlike Geekdom, he doesn't say it's all wonderful. Unlike me, he actually, will go back and watch it with subtitles, so he's, more accurate on his opinions, and he just overall is really he's the best of both worlds. He has the critiques, he can say what's good and what's not. It's all there, packed into one. So that's really good. Now, getting into my attitude toward the episode, like I said, when I watched it initially, where it was just moving pictures, I didn't really have any issue. Um, a few things now that I've seen it with the subtitles, I liked the stalling that Bulma tried to do to Zamasu while Trunks was learning the Mafuba. I think the fusion between Black and Zamasu looks really cool. It has a design that I find aesthetically pleasing. Um, and Black's powers, even though they didn't make sense for how he got them, at least in my opinion, with the whole when he cuts himself and suddenly he can do this, they looked cool as well. But that's kind of where it ends. So let's get to the critiques. The Mafuba turned out to be worthless. Um, it didn't seal up the villain, and you basically brought back this attack just to kind of red hair me for a few episodes, which I'm used to red herring. I like red herring when it's done in a way that is a legitimate surprise. You had people speculating they wouldn't, this old school move wouldn't actually be effective, and I knew it wouldn't be effective from the simple fact that's not how Dragon Ball Z rolls. It's how Dragon Ball rolled, but how everything post the original series has been this, we got to duke it out to the very end. And I guess you could argue that the original series was that to an extent, but you still had other ways of beating villains. You didn't have to always kill them. You didn't have to always um, just completely get rid of them. And you can tell. You go back and watch Dragon Ball and you compare that to Z. Tell me this: how many villains from Z actually make it out alive? Like just if you go and count all of, so count freeze all of his men, Cell, Boo. How many of them stay alive till the end? Vegeta, who I'm sure Toriyama had plans to keep him around based on popularity alone. Um, but aside from him, and the good part of Boo, what other villains actually live? Can't even say Ginyu anymore because they killed him. The point is, it was predictable this move would not be used to save the day, but it was also disappointing to bring back something that I really thought could be a good callback and actually contribute to the story. It did nothing. It did nothing except just stall time for the fusion to be left off. It's just like Zeon said, to be left off as the cliffhanger to make everybody get all excited and you know um, aroused for next week's episode. So it really was just filler, and it padded out. Um, Now the other thing with the relating to the mafia, this move just really kind of was the main nail in the coffin for this episode. Other thing I didn't like about it is that when Bulma goes, first of all, I'm supposed to believe now. One thing I will give credit to the writers for, I didn't think, if you remember, after Goku teleports away in that episode, I think it was 62, whichever one, him and Vegeta went back into the past and told everybody about the situation. He teleports away. Piccolo says, I was going to just show him the attack, but he then leaves. And then Bulma goes, "Oh, well, you can show us the move." And I really thought that was going to be a throwaway kind of comedic line that didn't really have anything to do with the actual, overall narrative. And they pleasantly surprised me here. They actually made use of this line, and I was glad about that. But then you go into, this new can of worms, where basically it turned out to just be for nothing because he learns the move, which this is what I'm trying to convey now. Why is it so easy for, I mean, this is a problem we've had kind of with this whole arc, for these massive gains in power to just be acquired with no real struggle. I mean, first, you had Trunks being able to stand up to Zamazu, even though he's not even a god, use God Key or whatever. Then you have this new form he just gains out of nowhere. It's all just so. And then you have Vegeta being able, he gets his curb stomped in, dueling Black before this last episode. He trains in Hyperbolic Time Chamber for one episode. Now he's just amped up and prepared. See, this is kind of the problem with this whole arc at this point. I think the pacing's been really rushed, and I think part of that is because they want to, avoid Z, and they don't have manga chapters being written. But filler can be very beneficial to a story. Let's say we had 15 episodes of Zamazu turning evil. They could have easily, done something in between that time with the other characters, and then you wouldn't have people complaining about how they haven't been used at all this arc. I'm just saying, but that's not really a fault of the episode. It's more a fault of the overall series. I'm relating that to you in this review specifically to show how it all just goes together in screwing this up. So that's something else to take into account for the writers, now that they're watching this. Um, you know, Really the only redeeming thing. I mean, these fights just they don't have that same kind of oomph factor that I think Z had where and even the fight earlier with the first fight with Goku versus Black right at the start of this arc, and I think pretty much every fight up until this one it was just kind of throw some punches at you, and it didn't seem to be choreographed in any sense of what, just any type of way. It didn't feel like a Toriyama fight. It didn't feel as if it had anything going for it other than being, oh yeah, look at these characters that we've kind of grown attached to over, the course of this arc and before with everybody except for the villains. And that's just supposed to be what makes me interested in that battle. Um, but I don't agree with Hell Zeon. I know it makes it sound, oh yeah, I agree with everything he said. I don't pay attention. Like, I don't know, the animation thing that they keep complaining about. Um, I don't see, at least in this arc's been really, there was some kind of off model stuff here and there in earlier episodes, but I don't see anything wrong with the way this is produced. Again, I could be wrong. I didn't, you know, get all close to the TV or to the screen of the my phone when I watched the episode, so I could be very incorrect for my assessment of how good the quality of the episode was from a standpoint of animation, but I really don't think so. Um, this arc really has been kind of flipped upside down, and this episode kind of continues it. First you have the reveal of another time of just this time paradox, this confusing time thing. Well, it's not. It's just it's ridiculous. Let's put it that way. Ridiculous. Um, explanation for how Black came to be and how events have played out with things would have been the same even if they hadn't been the same, although they couldn't have been the same because then this would have made it occur, wouldn't have happened, that kind of thing. And it was very awful. But aside from that, I was really trying to just say, okay, well, at least now they'll try to finish the story in a good way. I don't feel as if they are. I just think they're rushing through this because they don't want it to just drag on forever like stuff in Z. But again, this story, I feel it's not being benefited by being allowed to drag out a little bit. Everything is just, it feels as if they're just trying to rush to whatever is next. And they don't have to do that, but this episode continues it. Why was it necessary to just drag out this whole thing so you can have a good cliffhanger? I mean, it didn't make sense. They put filler in places where it shouldn't be, and I just I don't like it. I don't think it's good. I don't think it's a wise choice on their part. Really, if they had more filler, we wouldn't have the manga creator having to rush through and try to catch up and claim that he's going to be ahead when he's missing, I don't know, a good half of the story right now. Monthly mangas, that's another issue. But yeah, I didn't I didn't like this episode. After it's good visually. When you break down the story, it didn't make much sense to me. I think it's the weakest out of this whole arc. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it definitely, I feel, lacked it in certain places, and they can do better, and I think they will do better. So until next week, thank you for watching, and have a good night.